The series begins with a television show in 1968, where there is a presenter and two scientists who are talking about the events of diseases and viruses that have hit the world, and of all these events, in the end, humanity has won the war. But according to scientists, there is one thing that needs attention: being infected by a dangerous fungus. They know that there are some dangerous mushrooms, not to kill the people who are infected but to control the people who are infected, just like a puppet controlled by its owner. They argue that some of these dangerous fungi can evolve, for example, because the temperature conditions on Earth are hotter than usual, and can control the human brain until finally the infection from the fungus spreads throughout the world and to all humans. So far, no one has been able to overcome this if it happened. Or even a vaccine that is effective for curing the infection, so that it is certain that humanity will lose, and eventually they will be finished. Turning to 2003 in the United States, there is a spoiled woman named Sarah who will celebrate the birthday of her father, Joel, and they both live with Joel's brother, Tommy. While they were having breakfast, they heard on the radio about an incident that had occurred in Jakarta, so the United States government warned the families who were there to be on the lookout. Joel didn't know where Jakarta was. He thought the city was in the Middle East, so Sarah told Joel that Jakarta was the capital city of a country called Indonesia. And then Sarah goes to school, but before that, she retrieves her father's broken watch, planning to repair it for her father's birthday. After returning home from school and waiting for the watchman to fix the watch, there were several police cars and fire engines passing by on the street. The clockworker said that he was bothered by the cars that often passed in front of his shop. Not long after, the watchmaker's wife came and immediately wanted to close the shop because there was something urgent that made her worry, so she told Sarah to go home and give her the watch that had been repaired. And then Sarah visited her neighbor's house, where she did homework while spending the rest of the day. At that time, she checked on the grandmother, who was deaf, and when Sarah wanted to borrow her father's favorite movie DVD, she did not know that the grandmother suddenly moved like she was having a convulsion while opening her mouth behind her. When Sarah was going home, she saw a dog in the house who was watching the grandmother and kept watching, which made Sarah wonder. In the evening, after Joel came home from work, Sarah finally gave him the repaired watch as a gift. She admitted that she got the money from selling drugs, but actually she lied. The money that Sarah used was Joel's money that she stole. Later, while watching Joel's favorite movie, he receives word from Tommy that he is at the police station for beating up a madman who was trying to beat him, and a misunderstanding occurs when the police arrest Tommy. So, he enlists Joel's help to free himself, which requires Joel to go to the police station right away. He carried Sarah, who had fallen asleep, to her room. When sleeping very well, Sarah woke up in the early hours of the morning because she heard a loud noise outside. Therefore, she looked for Joel, who had not yet returned from the police office. Sarah then tried to turn on the TV and saw an emergency broadcast from the government ordering an independent lockdown at home. Suddenly a neighbor's dog came to her house, as if to tell her that something was wrong around her. Moreover, there was a military helicopter passing above and a jet plane that Sarah had seen yesterday. She then took the dog back to the neighbor's house, but the dog refused with a growl, and finally the dog was foggy. This made Sarah curious, so she entered her neighbor's house and found traces of blood in the kitchen. It turned out that it was the grandmother who was eating other neighbors like zombies while spreading the virus to turn humans into zombies like herself. Absolutely. Sarah got scared, so she ran out of the house while being chased by the old lady, but luckily, Joel and Tommy came just in time, and finally the grandmother was forced to be killed by Joel. They then hurriedly fled to find a safe place and had to crash into their neighbors, who had turned into zombies. On the way, they talked about this zombie outbreak that was allegedly caused by a virus that caused the entire communication network to go down, and suspected that this zombie virus spread for the first time in the city area, so that one could guess why the old lady was infected when she was previously hospitalized. They saw a large burning house, and someone else was asking for help, but Joel told them not to help them, out of fear for the people who could have been infected. Arriving at the toll road, they saw that the streets were very congested because many people wanted to escape, so Tommy took a shortcut through a field, but he saw that there was a military helicopter ahead. Because they didn't want to be intercepted by the military, they decided to passing through the streets in other small towns while seeing airplanes that are about to land in an emergency and many people are panicking. Their journey was then blocked by many zombies that were heading towards them, and after that, there was an airplane that crashed behind them, and finally their car was slammed because of the falling plane object. After fainting for a moment, Sarah sees lots of zombies eating people before she is taken out of the car by Joel. Shortly after that, a police car crashes into their car, and Joel and Sarah part ways with Tommy, who reveals a location for their next meeting. Due to a previous accident, Sarah's leg was injured. Joel carried her while running, and a few moments later he was caught by one of the zombies who was eating humans. Therefore, Joel fled towards the restaurant, where he was chased by a zombie who could run and jump. And after Joel left the restaurant, suddenly Zombie was shot by someone, which apparently was done by a soldier. After finding out that Joel and Sarah were not infected, the soldier reported to his boss, but he became shocked and finally shot Joel, and Sarah fell and rolled down the hill. Before the soldier kills Joel, the soldier apologizes, but suddenly the soldier is shot from a distance, which was apparently done by Tommy. But Joel's attention was soon diverted to Sarah, who was dying because she had been shot in the stomach by the soldier. Because they didn't have enough time, Joel failed to save her child, and in the end, Sarah died of bleeding. Turning to 20 years later, in 2021, there is a small child who is walking alone in the middle of a forest and sees a city that has ended because of the zombie outbreak that has swept across the world. There, the child found a place that had been guarded by several armed officers, and then the child fainted, so the officer took the child to a safe place, where she was checked to see if she was infected or not with the zombie virus. And after being examined, it turned out that the child had been infected, as indicated by a red color on the infection checking tool, because there was a wound on her knee. Therefore, the officers gave the child the opportunity to do whatever he wanted, but before that, they injected something into the child first. These officers are from a group called FEDRA, or like the Emergency Response Agency, which is a group that serves as the authority controlling the quarantine zone, and they have a base that is home to virus survivors. But there is also a rebel group called Fireflies that doesn't like that. FEDRA did this because Fireflies wants everyone to be free to build the country together, especially when the world is in an apocalyptic situation. Joel is one of the sufferers, and now he works every day as a laborer to earn money, but the money he gets is not the money he used as usual but the new money that FEDRA made. One day, while taking care of a corpse to be burned, Joel saw a child who turned out to be one of the people who had to be burned. Because his friend is a mother and can't bear to burn the child, Joel will do it because it looks like he has done this to his own daughter, Sarah. Finally, the child was burned. When he saw several people who were about to be executed because they wanted to escape from the headquarters, he saw an armed officer who gave a message to come, so Joel came closer to an alley, and it turned out that they were dealing in illegal drug transactions that Joel was selling to earn extra money. On this occasion, Joel inquired about the progress of a truck from the officers because he was planning to escape from that place and was already working with a woman named Tess, who took care of purchasing car batteries. But the problem is that the person she ordered to buy a car battery, named Robert, cheated by selling the battery to someone else, so there was a commotion between Tess and Robert. Suddenly their place was affected by an explosion, because outside there was a shootout between FEDRA and Fireflies. But when Tess regained consciousness, she saw that Robert had run away, which made her unlucky. Meanwhile, Joel goes to the voicemail service on the radio, where people are lining up to message people they loved who may still be alive out there. Joel and the radio's officer have been friends for a long time, and with little money, Joel inquired about his brother, Tommy, who had split up with Joel when they were trying to survive the zombie apocalypse. But the result was that there was no reply from Tommy, so Joel became worried because Tommy had not replied to messages from Joel for 3 weeks, and Tommy usually replied to messages within 1 day. So, Joel decided to go desperately to Tommy's voicemail service, which was very far away, and after Joel found out the location from the radio's officer, he immediately got ready to go there, even though he knew that zombies were roaming everywhere outside. The next day Joel found out about Tess's wound on her face, so she told him that this was caused by some young people who hit her where the children were just born after the outbreak spread in 2003. When she found out that her car battery had been sold by Robert, Joel was sure to become angry, but Tess invited him to look for Robert by leaving the headquarters secretly, and finally Joel took out the gun he had been keeping all this time. At a restaurant, Tess asks a spy about Robert, and after Tess knows of Robert's location at the Fireflies headquarters, she and Joel head to the subway tunnels through a special place to escape, while carrying a bag of equipment that they have prepared. And then later, after arriving at an office, they were surprised by a zombie whose life was about to end in a state of decay, suspecting that the zombie had not eaten for a long time. They then continued on their way until they arrived at the Fireflies base, where they found Robert and his team dead from the resulting shootout. It turned out that the condition of the car battery that Robert brought was not good, but he still wanted to sell it by lying to the buyer. Not long after that, Joel and Tess hear voices of people in pain in the next hallway and are surprised by a teenage girl who wants to attack Joel, but Joel manages to overcome the attack. The person who was in pain was named Marlene, and it turned out that Joel knew Marlene, who was the leader of the Fireflies group, and had succeeded in killing Robert and her team, who had tried to sell bad car batteries. This made Joel ask Marlene, "Why are you buying a car battery?" and was answered, if he needs it for something very important and related to a teenage girl named Ellie, but Marlene could not tell what that something was. Marlene's friend then told her that because of the shootout that had occurred, Fedra already knew about it and would come here. Therefore, Marlene thought that because her stomach was shot and her friend's condition was injured, she should ask Joel for help accompanying Ellie to be taken to the Fireflies team, who were waiting for Ellie in a place called State House. Instead, the Fireflies team will provide what Joel needs, from car batteries to survival needs to weapons. After finishing the discussion, Joel and Tess agreed to take Ellie to the State House, and at night, they sneaked out of the base by going through a secret passage that Tess knew, but they weren't completely safe from the officers because they had to avoid the officer's guard. Around the gate quietly. A few moments later, they are unluckily caught by one of the officers urinating, who turns out to be Joel's customer in a drug deal, but he does his job anyway, so he orders Joel and his friends to take a knee with their hands behind their heads. The officer wanted to make sure they weren't infected, but when he checked Ellie, she immediately stabbed the officer with her knife, so the officer was angry and was about to shoot Ellie. Joel tried to calm the officer down, but when he said to step aside, Joel was reminded of what had happened to her child, who had killed. So, Joel immediately attacked the officer and then beat him many times, and finally the officer died. Tess then checked the infection check kit, and it turned out that Ellie was infected, but she admitted that she didn't show any symptoms and showed her wound on her hand that she got 3 weeks ago. While a normal human would turn into a zombie in less than 1 day, they didn't have much time to talk about those scars, as they had to secure themselves from the officers first. The series continues with Joel taking the officer's rifle, then Joel and friends enter the zombie area, and their real adventure has just begun.